You are a pilot, and this is your luck. You were born looking up, not dreaming, looking. There's a difference. Dreaming means you imagine it from a safe distance. Looking means you tracked every contrail across every sky you ever stood under and felt something pull in your chest, like gravity reversed. The universe put you here, in this cockpit, with these hands on these controls, at the exact moment in history when a human being can punch through clouds at 500 miles per hour and call it Tuesday. And you do, every single time. That alone is a miracle. Your home, the flight deck, the briefing room, the moment before rotation when the runway disappears beneath you and the world falls away. It doesn't matter which aircraft. Pick the most demanding version of this life. That's your home now. The beginning. You didn't choose this. It chose you. Maybe it was a parent who took you to an air show before you were old enough to understand what you were seeing, and something in you recognized it anyway. Maybe it was a small plane overhead on an ordinary afternoon that made you stop walking and stand still until it was gone. Your body understood before your mind had the language. Something ancient and specific lit up in your chest the first time you felt lift. Not the idea of it, the actual physics of air moving faster over a curved surface and lifting your entire weight off the earth. You were not ready for how right it felt. You started small. Paper licenses, ground school, a Cessna Run 72 with a flight instructor who didn't say much and let the sky do the teaching. Your first solo was the most alone you have ever been, and simultaneously the most yourself. Nobody was flying the airplane but you. Nobody was responsible for that altitude and that heading and that moment but you. You came down different than you went up. Everything unnecessary had burned away at pattern altitude. That clarity, you've been chasing it ever since. Aviation in itself is not inherently dangerous, but to an even greater degree than the sea, it is terribly unforgiving of any carelessness, incapacity, or neglect. Captain A.G. Lampplug. Your inventory. Your mind. Not a gift, a project. You built this with years of study that nobody watched and nobody applauded. Every weather system memorized, every emergency procedure drilled until it lived below conscious thought, every chart, every frequency, every approach plate internalized as though your life depended on it, because it did, because it does. That discipline is your primary instrument. Everything else is secondary. Your hands. Calibrated, precise, light on the controls. They know things your conscious mind has filed away. Stick and rudder is not metaphor. It is a literal archive of 10,000 hours stored in the tissue itself. The good pilots, the truly good ones, don't fly with force. They fly with touch. The airplane wants to fly. Your job is to agree with it. Situational awareness. The armor you wear every flight. The thing that builds the three-dimensional picture of everything around you. Altitude, heading, weather, traffic, fuel state, time, terrain, simultaneously, continuously, automatically. Not a skill you perform, a state you maintain. The moment you lose it is the moment the sky becomes dangerous. A clear mind under pressure. This took longer than the technical training, longer and harder. A hand can be trained in a simulator. A mind has to be persuaded to stay functional when everything is wrong. The work of persuading your own mind, of learning to be methodical inside the emergency, this is the real training. This never ends. Patience. Because most of what pilots do is manage, not react. The emergencies are seconds. Everything before them is hours of discipline and preparation. And this, the knowledge of exactly what and who is depending on your judgment, not an abstraction, a specific, felt, named weight behind every decision. Without this, you are just an operator. With it, you are something the sky has always required. Your body. Your body is a precision instrument in service of a larger one. You take care of it because the regulations say to, and because you know why the regulations exist. 8 hours bottle to throttle is not a suggestion. It is the acknowledgement that the body degrades before the mind notices the degradation. That requires more than monitoring. Your crew. This is the thing the outside world misunderstands most completely about this life. They think the work is individual, the heroic captain, solo against the storm. The reality is that the safest aviation in history has been produced by teams that communicate, that challenge each other, that do not let rank silence the person who sees something wrong. The junior officer who speaks up in the moment of confusion. That is not insubordination. That is crew resource management. That is what saves lives. You know this. You train for it. You model it. You have seen colleagues broken by the irregular life of this profession, the years away, the relationships that could not survive the schedule, the slow erosion of ordinary life by the demands of an extraordinary one. You do not judge them. The weight is real. The question of whether a person can balance what this life costs against what it gives is a fair question with an honest answer that not everyone finds in their favor. You found yours. You are still flying. The real battle. The hardest flight was never the one through the storm. It was the one you almost took when you shouldn't have. The departure you almost continued when the weather was below minimums. The approach you almost pressed when the fuel was marginal. The crew who almost didn't speak up because the captain seemed certain. Aviation's darkest chapters are not stories of equipment failure. They are stories of humans continuing when they should have stopped, of confidence outrunning competence, of authority silencing the voice that had the answer. The real battle in aviation is against the decision-making errors that feel like confidence. Get there-itis, plan continuation bias, the sunk cost of a schedule that makes the wrong choice feel like the right one. These are not weaknesses of bad pilots. They are vulnerabilities of experienced ones. The better you are, the more certain you can become. Certainty in an uncertain environment is not a virtue, it is a risk. The pilots who fly longest and best are the ones who stayed humble, not uncertain, humble. The ones who built enough self-knowledge to recognize when confidence was earned and when it was constructed. The ones who could say, "I don't know," in a cockpit and reach for the manual. The ones who could say, "I'm not comfortable," and mean it in front of the crew. This is not weakness. This is the specific and hard-won strength of a person who understands that the sky doesn't grade on past performance. Flying is the second greatest thrill known to man. Landing is the first, unknown. Personal thought. The most important thing I learned, not in training, not from an instructor, but from years in the seat, is that the airplane always tells the truth. The instruments don't lie to protect your feelings. The weather doesn't adjust for your schedule. The fuel burns at the same rate whether you believe in the forecast or not. The sky is honest in a way that human environments are not. That honesty is a gift if you listen to it. The pilots who have the longest careers are the ones who learned to listen before the airplane had to say it loudly. The return. Coming home is its own kind of flight management. The airport is familiar, the parking structure, the drive that you could do without seeing it, home that smells like a different life, the ordinary texture of a world that does not know what you managed in the last 72 hours, the system you penetrated, the call-out you caught, the passenger who had a medical event, and the decision you made to divert, and the coordination that landed everyone safely, and the paperwork, and then the next leg, and the next. You move through domestic space like someone whose calibration is set for a larger environment. The situational awareness that you maintain automatically in the cockpit doesn't turn off when you close the front door. You note exits, you read room energy, you process threat and non